So they don't pay any attention to the peripheral damage these things cause. You know, we can do enough damage to our world that it doesn't survive. And it doesn't seem to enter their head that the Earth is alive. It's alive. It takes in energy from the sun. It produces all its life. And, you know, we affect its basic operation, its survival. There was an incredibly big tsunami in the Indian Ocean that was devastating for not only Sumatra and Indonesia, but Thailand, India, Malaysia, and even the east coast of Africa. It was caused by an earthquake, a shift under the Indian Ocean. Now, we know that the technology is out there and many nations can induce earthquakes. In fact, there's been an effort for probably the last 30, 40 years to control all natural processes, since they would give you a tremendous advantage in war. And the U.S. tried to do some weather modification, for example, during the war in Vietnam. And I think they called it Project Sky Fury or something like that. And they were trying to control lightning and monsoon rains. But so the earthquake technology is out there. It's usable. Probably U.S., Russia, Japan, China, maybe India. So there's quite a few countries would have this ability. The earthquake was not the usual, and there's even a dispute over where the center was located. Australia claims it's about 350 miles south of where the United States says it was. And so there's not an agreement on the location of the epicenter. There was no preliminary warning that there would be an earthquake. Usually there are earth tremors that are picked up by the local centers, earthquake centers. They can pick up these tremors and they know it's building up to an earthquake. But there wasn't any preliminary. There were no identified aftershocks. Now there were tremors after, but there was none that was large enough to be identified as an aftershock. The people, in fact, when they felt some of these tremors, they prepared for a second tidal wave, which never came. If you know anything about artificial earthquakes, such as we had with the nuclear weapon testing in Nevada, you know that there's the earthquake, say, is 9 or 8 on the Richter scale. If the after effect is 2 orders of magnitude down, so say 9 goes down to 7, it's an artificial earthquake. If it goes from 9 to 8, it's probably a natural earthquake, because the artificial ones seem to give an artificial push to the plates, and it's because it doesn't come from a rhythmic pulsing of the earth, then the aftershock falls to a much lower level, because it's artificial, I think, basically. So there was no aftershock and there was no preliminary. We know it can be formed artificially. There's dispute over where the center is. And of course there was a lot of going on with communication. Diego Garcia was warned and the people weren't warned. So things like that happened. I also found out that a ship run by SAIC Incorporated, which is a kind of governmental arm and 80% of their work comes from the government. They're not traded publicly, so they're company owned by the people who work in it. They were sounding for oil and gas under the Indian Ocean right near the epicenter at the time it occurred. So that was another joker put into the situation. The follow-up, the day after the large earthquake and tsunami, there was a galactic gamma ray hit the Earth's atmosphere. It was the largest one ever recorded, and it was quite extraordinary. Now, it came after the earthquake. However, these gamma rays are also connected with a gravity wave, which comes ahead of the gamma ray. And so if there was a large gravity wave along with this cosmic ray, it could have caused the earthquake. That is right now the favored scientific explanation, but nobody really has all the dots connected and can really lay out what happened. It certainly clearly was abnormal, and clearly they're looking for what caused it. The artificial creation of an earthquake could be done in several ways, but probably the one that would be most likely to be used has to do with a facility like HAARP. Now, HAARP, H-A-A-R-P, High Active Auroral Research Project, which the United States has set up in Gacona, Alaska, which is somewhere between Anchorage and Fairbanks, is a ionospheric heater. It's a grid of, I think there are 48 now, transmission towers, but they're put in a grid which is 6 by 8 grid. So there's all these parallel transmission towers. They expect to have 150 when it's finished, but they do have 48 now, and it is operative. It sends a synchronized wave up to the ionosphere, and what happens is some of it comes back to reflects back to the Earth. Now, this is a very flexible, mobile array, and they can change the angle so that the returning rays go in different directions, so they can aim it. The returning waves are low and extra low frequency. They're the long wave radio waves. And these are rhythmic, and they can go through the center of the Earth, and they can, if there's an instability somewhere, they can jar it with a rhythmic wave and cause an earthquake. They're being used now for several purposes. One is they're calling it deep earth tomography. It's like a mapping of the inside of the Earth. They can, they've now located the core of the Earth. They found that you have a solid mantle, and then inside is a molten metal core, and then inside of that is another solid core. And so they're studying this, what's going on internally in the Earth itself. And they're looking for underground bunkers and for underground oil and gas supplies, that sort of thing. So much of their funding from Congress is coming for deep earth tomography. But it can also be used to be a direct wave weapon and cause earthquakes. And they could even cause an earthquake accidentally because they were